Welcome to the Recovery Cast, brought to you by Hills and Rangers Private.
Hello again, welcome back to another episode of the Recovery Cast brought to you by Hills and Rangers Private. My name is Oliver and I'm an addict in recovery. Today we have a friend of mine and a recovery peer on the line, Sarah. Say hello, Sarah.
Hello, nice to be here.
Hello, yeah, nice to have you on the show. Today we are going to talk about the October 20 JFT reading entitled Freedom to Choose. Enforced morality lacks the power that comes to us when we choose to live a spiritual life. Basic text, page 45. In our active addiction, many of us lived our lives by default. We were unwilling or unable to make choices about how we wanted to act, what we preferred to do, or even where we would live. We allowed the drugs or other people to make our most basic decisions for us. Freedom from active addiction means, among other things, the freedom to make those choices for ourselves. Freedom of choice is a wonderful gift, but it's also a great responsibility. Choice allows us to find out who we are and what we believe in. However, in exercising it, we're called on to weigh our own choices and accept the consequences. This leads some of us to seek out someone who will make our choices for us, our sponsor, our home group, our NA friends. Just as our disease made our choices for us when we were using, that's not recovery. Seeking others' experience is one thing, abdicating personal responsibility is something else. If we don't use the gift of freedom we've been given, if we refuse to accept the responsibilities that go along with it, we'll lose that gift and our lives will be diminished. We are responsible for our own recovery and our own choices. Difficult as it may seem, we must make those choices for ourselves and become willing to accept the consequences. Just for today, I'm grateful for the freedom to live as I choose. Today, I will accept responsibility for my recovery and make my own choices and accept the consequences. Woo! Okay, so it's another reading about consequences. What do you think, Sarah?
Yeah, a powerful reading. I love these readings. Look, I relate to that. My active addiction life was, basically me being controlled by a substance, whatever that substance was. That meant that I kind of lost this power of, lost this freedom to choose for myself, and my decisions were, really based around when I could get the next drug.
I have these memories of just my day was all just centered around using, and I would dread the days where I wasn't able to, and my days then would be focused around trying to find drugs or trying to get money, trying to fill that really deep dark hole and feed that monster that was inside me. That's the way it felt for me. And it talks about we were unable to make choices about how we wanted to act, what we preferred to do, or even where we would live. And for me, it was absolutely, I was unable to choose. It was, my actions were being guided entirely by my addiction. So I would do things that I was completely morally against. Whatever I had to do, I would just do it just so that I could continue to use. I hear that all the time in meetings about that desperation and that powerlessness. It's a very step one kind of thing. So what else do we, now, now in our recovery, it's a very different story. We have some freedom. So do you want to just go into a little bit about maybe how it's different and how you got there? So what's your life like today in comparison?
Yeah, well, yeah, significantly different, and it continues to change. That's the beautiful thing about recovery. But yeah, look, when I, was granted this freedom from addiction, so, after being in the NA program for a little while, I got freedom from wanting to use, which I'd never had before. So I actually didn't wake up in the morning and be desperate to use a drug. That went away. Not straight away, but the program alleviated that for me, which was the first sign of thing. And in getting that out of the way, not having that voice in my head all the time saying, use, it means that I became free in my mind to be able to think about other things in my life, and to start making some choices, some healthy choices, to start moving forward in my life, as an adult.
And that's where that freedom starts coming in, doesn't it? For me, I had the change of simply getting clean and staying, and as time went by, I was more able to make choices and appropriate choices, healthy choices, as you said. I have that freedom, and it's freedom in so many different aspects of life. The freedom to, one great one is, even though I'm not allowed to go beyond 5 kilometres from this studio in which I'm recording this, if that was not the case, I'd be able to go anywhere. I remember going on holidays and really being limited to how much of my drugs that I could take with me, or the availability and the things that I would do just to use. There's so many war stories and things that I can talk about of being overseas and going on these ridiculous adventures. I'd think of them as adventures perhaps back then, but it was just a disastrous hunt to score and all that stuff, and the places that I went as a result, and the horrible the people that I had to deal with. Today I can go wherever I want and do whatever I want. I can be completely free, and that is the most liberating thing, to not be tied to a drug. It was like a ball and chain that I was carrying around, and freedom to choose, to freedom to have the money to do what I want, and if a bill comes up or something like that, that there's money in the bank account to take care of it. Whereas before I would have to. That's another thing of not having the freedom to choose, because I'd be trying to get money off my family or something to pay for just necessities, because I'd spent all my money on using. So it's very, very common and very standard stuff for addicts to experience that, I think. And how do we get to that point? How do we get to the point where we have this freedom? What did you have to do, apart from obviously getting clean however you did it, whether it was in treatment or outside treatment with the help of friends, family, whatever? How did you get to the point where you were gaining that freedom, Sarah?
Yeah. Look, when I stopped using, I was very confused and very frightened, and it was suggested to me to get a sponsor in Narcotics Anonymous, and I did that, and this person helped me to kind of make some basic decisions for myself that I was really frightened and unable to do. So I got, the guidance from this person, someone that had gone before me. I got phone numbers from people in the rooms of NA. I asked them questions like, what do I do? How do I do this? Can you help me? And by doing that, I started to trust myself a bit more. I started to be able to make some decisions for myself. You spoke about going overseas. I've been overseas for the first time in recovery. I was able to save up my money, and I chose to do that, and I was a grown-up, and, I'm at university now. I've taken that path, and, that was because I got the guidance early on from other people in the rooms, and, I feel a lot confident now in making my own decisions and accepting the responsibility for my own decisions.
And it's, at the beginning, I think you're talking about, and also for me that I did have to ask for other people's experience and ask for some guidance, because to be frank, I actually had no idea what to do a lot of times. So we'll continue to talk about that actually after this brief message. Stand by.
You're listening to the Recovery Cast, brought to you by Hills and Ranges Private. Like what you hear? Then visit us at www.rehab.melbourne for more shows.
That's right. Welcome back to the Recovery Cast. So we are speaking with Sarah, and we are just having a chat about getting advice from others. Something that I needed in those times of early recovery where I didn't quite understand and have any idea about what I should do. Sometimes I was totally baffled at the beginning. I would ring my sponsor, and my sponsor would give me his suggestion, and a lot of it was actually really, really uncomfortable. I was told to do things that I really didn't want to do. So I'd ring him up and say, "Oh, I've met someone. I want to get involved in a relationship," and my sponsor would say, "I recommend that you don't do that." Or I would say, "I'm getting in road rage incidents. What do I do?" And my sponsor would say, "Stop listening to hip hop in the car, you fool," you know, or just so many different things. Sometimes I didn't go along with what my sponsor suggested, but at least I sort of had a better idea of perhaps what was more in line with living a less turbulent life. And it did help. And over time, I think what we need to talk about now is how I actually learned these things by default, and all of my old thoughts and old behavioural patterns of reacting to things and just making plainly the wrong decisions. I began to overcome that thought process, and I began to actually make healthier decisions. And it took a very, very, very long time. It took years to be able to have the awareness to say, all right, I'd say to myself, okay, Oliver, you're feeling uncomfortable. Why? And then I would maybe do some thinking about that and meditate on it, and I would come up with, I'm feeling uncomfortable because I'm doing something that is making me feel uncomfortable. And my sponsor's voice would pop up inside my head and say, you're uncomfortable because you're doing this. And it was almost like this internal dialogue between my addiction and my sponsor, or the things that I'd learned of fighting it out. And then I would arrive at this decision that, well, I shouldn't really be doing this, or there's an amends I may need to make, or something along those lines. And it would just come naturally to the point where there wouldn't be that dialogue anymore. I would just make the correct decisions. You know, what's your experience with that? Do you make these healthier decisions without the sort of struggle to make them that was there in early recovery?
Yeah. Look, that stuff's gotten a lot better for me. I'm human. I'm still a human, and I make mistakes. Sometimes my thinking is really negative. Sometimes it's not based in reality. And I've learned to reach out for help, like I did in those early days. I learned early on that I can ask other people. It's okay to ask other people. People want to help me in NA. Look, a lot of the time I can make my own healthy decisions, as I said, but that help is really important. Look, as you said, in early days, like, I didn't know what bloody socks to wear sometimes. I really struggled to make basic decisions. And going through the step work that I've done in NA with a sponsor is really, it's helped me in so many ways. I feel like this program has helped me immensely to be a more confident, person in the world, and to not be just hounded with that negative, addict head all the time. And it's okay to make mistakes as well. I've learnt that in recovery. It's okay. I'm learning all the time. And I've just learnt so much from coming to today.
And look, it is so important to acknowledge that we are human, and making mistakes is not strictly a person dealing with addiction thing. It's not just addicts or, people who are struggling that make mistakes and everybody else is perfect. There couldn't be anything more wrong than a statement like that. It's just the fact that perhaps people that aren't burdened with addiction are more able to make the right choices. And through being in recovery, we actually make a significant step towards attaining that, is that we are not so drawn to making these dramatically sort of difficult decisions that just bring about disaster. And on a previous episode, I was looking at these brain scans of people who are in recovery, and these scans were 1 month after being in recovery and then 14 months after being in recovery. And the sort of scans, the 14 months of recovery scan looked by and large identical to that of someone who'd never used drugs and wasn't dealing with addiction. So that is the thing to take away, is that it's a journey, and it's not something that will fix itself overnight. It's something that needs to be worked towards. And that's certainly been my experience, is that over the 4 years that I've been clean, I've just slowly, one day at a time, worked towards this life where I'm not suffering anymore. And the things that, it's not every day that I actually am presented with examples of my own personal growth. Sometimes it's occasionally. I will realise that, hey, somebody's wallet or handbag or something is on the table, and I'm not stealing from them, like where my addiction took me. And I realise, hey, that is the most amazing sort of thing to happen, because that's where my addiction took me, is petty crime and theft and all that stuff. And it's just a matter of hanging on and taking it one day at a time. Are there times where you sort of are presented with these changes where you realise how far you've come, Sarah?
Yeah. Actually, I was thinking just the other day, I was in a supermarket and I was paying for my groceries, and I just had this memory of having to steal food because all my money went on drugs. There was no consequential thinking there. I had no money to eat, and I thought, wow, look at me, buying healthy food, looking after myself, treating myself well and respectfully, able to make these healthy decisions. And I just had this flashback. And like you said, I struggle to see my own growth sometimes, and we all do. But it's definitely there. And it's been long and slow, but every day I just learn and I grow more, and I don't have to be that person, shoving things in my pants and trying to sneak past the security. It was just such a desperate and sad place to live, and I'm really grateful that I don't have to do that anymore.
And do you think it was all worth it, all of this journey?
Oh, absolutely. And it's been hard. Life can be incredibly difficult. We are presented with difficult stuff, but with the support of NA, and everything I've learned, it is absolutely worth it. And I sit here now and my head is quite peaceful. I don't have these this head that attacks me all the time. I have people to call on, and I just like myself a little bit. And when I like and respect myself and other people around me, I'm going to make better decisions.
Awesome. Well, to close out our episode today, I would like you to give all the people who are in early recovery, and also if you could travel back in time yourself in early recovery, one piece of advice. What would it be?
Take it easy. Take it easy on yourself. It takes time. Be patient. I wanted everything to be fixed straight away, and I tell you what, it's impossible. But over time, it is absolutely 100% possible to recover, to get recovery, to have a new way to live. Like I came from the depths of despair. I'm sure Oliver can, testify to that for himself as well. It is, recovery is available for everyone, no matter where you've been. Give yourself a break and just give it a chance.
Awesome. Well, some really powerful advice, and I would say the same thing to myself, is that just take it easy, because it's a process, and we have to trust the process. And that's something that all of the listeners can take away, no matter where you are in your recovery. Just give it a go and keep doing that thing one day at a time. It is a Just for Today program. So thank you for tuning into another episode, and thank you for coming in to chat to me today, Sarah. It's been a pleasure.
Oh, my pleasure. Great to be here. Thank you.
We'll see you next time.
Thank you for listening to the Recovery Cast. For more, visit us at www.rehab.melbourne.